Joining us now, New York Times White House correspondent Luke Broadwater, former federal judge and president of Dickinson College, John Jones, and Washington Post national investigative reporter and MSNBC contributor, Carol Leonnig. Everybody, thank you for being here. Luke, it has been a remarkable few months for the judiciary. This administration has stepped up attacks on judges and on decisions they don't like, which are coming relatively frequently because they are pushing up against the bounds of their constitutional authority. I am struck, though, by this rift between Donald Trump and Leonard Leo.
Right. Well, Donald Trump clearly is very displeased that a number of judges across the country have served as a check on his executive power, that he can't do essentially whatever he wants. And he's blaming Leonard Leo because he appointed some of these judges, right? He is angry at the International Trade Court for striking down his tariffs. And when he reads that he appointed one of the judges who made this decision, well, he can't blame himself. So he has to blame someone else. He has to blame the conservative legal advisors who gave him these names of judges to appoint to these different courts. You know, we're in a situation now in America where the co-equal branches of government, the balance between them has really been pushed to its limits. Congress has largely abdicated its role to the presidency, and now all that's left is judges across the country to say when the president is going beyond the bounds of the Constitution or beyond the laws set forth by Congress. And every time there's a ruling against him, Trump and his top allies in his administration lash out at those judges and sometimes personally posting their pictures online. And we're seeing the consequences of that.
Judge Jones, can you just give us a little bit of background information on the Federalist Society? I imagine that a lot of our viewers have, at least a glancing knowledge of what it is, but they are a big deal in the legal world.
Well, they're an uber-conservative group, the most conservative group, and it was a badge of honor for presidents of a conservative stripe to appoint people with bona fides from that group. And when Leonard Leo goes over the rail, and you hear that splash, things are really, really difficult. I was not a member of the Federalist Society. I was a Republican appointed by George W. Bush, but I didn't belong. But plenty of judges who've been appointed were. I don't know what the origin of this is, but I have to talk about Stephen Miller too. You'd think that was a Saturday Night Live skit. But it's all too real. He consistently, Katie, misstates the role of judges and, calling 15, 20, 25 judges communist. The other day it was Marxists. I don't know if that's a promotion or a demotion at this point. But because he's doing that and this constant vilification of judges who are doing their jobs under Article 3, we now have, as your first guest said, judges who are at great risk. They're being doxxed. Their family members are in jeopardy. This is a really serious thing to judges that they're being, so castigated in the public square and identified that they could be the victim of people who have bad intentions.
Castigated, intimidated. I want to get to that in a moment, but I do want to tease out. I think when you take all this stuff together, it raises the question of what kind of judge Donald Trump is laying the groundwork to nominate. Judge Jones, also tell me, if you can, the role that the American Bar Association normally plays in getting a judge, a nominee, vetted before they go to Congress for approval.
Well, for generations, going back as long as I can remember, Katie, the American Bar Association vets judicial nominations. Now, there was a hiccup during the Nixon administration that I've read about, and President Nixon had a problem with the ABA, but he kept them in the loop at that point. They are privy to confidential information. They interview judicial candidates. They check their professionalism. If they've been judges on lower courts, they talk to people who've been in front of them. If they've been practicing lawyers, they want to know their reputation for competency, professionalism, et cetera. So, they have an integral part in the appointment process, and they rate these candidates, and that rating is used by the Senate in its advice and consent role. So to strip it out, is really a remarkable act by the president, perhaps not unexpected with this president. And in terms of what judges he wants, Katie, he wants judges that are going to agree with him right down the line. This is a complete result-oriented business for him.
Let me read what Pam Bondi said about the American Bar Association. She says it's lost its way, and we do not believe it serves as a fair arbiter of judicial nominees. The Justice Department will no longer give the ABA the access they've taken for granted. ABA is nonpartisan. I should add that. You say he wants judges that will agree with him right down the line. If you don't have the ABA vetting them, and now Leonard Leo, you don't like a guy who stands on uber conservative principles, because you can disagree with Leonard Leo and say that you don't believe he's reading the law right, reading the Constitution correctly, but he is clearly rooted in some understanding that he has of the Constitution. It seems like, Judge Jones, that what the president and his folks might want now is a person who's not actually rooted in the law or the Constitution, but is instead just loyal to him.
Well, here's the worst iteration that I can think of, Katie, and this is where I think the ABA is doing things that are objectable to the Attorney General and others. They check people for their experience and their professionalism, as I said, but they want to know, frankly, has that attorney or that judge been around? Do they have the maturity and the experience that will make them a good judge? What you may see at this point are ideologues with no experience whatsoever in trials, never been inside a courtroom. Just people who are, come from the world of academia or whatever, that pass some internal litmus test getting on the bench. And those are the people you don't want on the trial bench. I had lots of trial experience when I became a trial judge. I think that's the way it should be. Appellate judge is a little bit different, but typically they have lots of experience. So that's what I fear. It's going to be a very secretive kind of vetting process, as according to the standards they have. But the problem is for them, these are life appointed once they're confirmed by the Senate. And they want to control them, but good luck with that. They can try as hard as they want to get the people that they want on the bench, but I'm not so sure that they can keep those strings attached to them.
Carol, I'm going to put up on the screen a list of the actions that have so far been blocked during this second administration. The dismantling of the CFPB, the Consumer Fraud Protection Board, dismantling of the Education Department, reductions in federal workers, probationary worker reductions, USAID dismantling, federal grants being suspended, U.S. Agency for Global Media being dismantled, the transgender military ban, Alien Enemies Act, sanctuary city funding, the student and exchange visitors, ICE raids in sensitive locations. Some of these things have then gone on to get a stay, and Donald Trump has been allowed to continue with them, including the transgender military ban. But, I mean, I am always struck that Donald Trump has an administration full of people that are supposed to understand government and how it works. And I imagine, Carol, that they know that a lot of this stuff is going to run up against court challenges, which makes me wonder if they're trying to have these fights.
Definitely a fight that's being picked, right, which is Donald Trump and Stephen Miller. Kudos to him for his PR spin about what judges are doing. Instead of, interpreting the law, apparently Stephen Miller wants them to back the mandate that he claims President Trump has. They're picking a fight to portray judges as anti-democracy and anti-America and anti-Trump, when really, these rulings are kind of basic. Like, when there was an argument about birthright citizenship, you couldn't find a lawyer in the country who believed that birthright citizenship wasn't protected under the Constitution. You couldn't find a lawyer in this country, very few, who believed that an executive order basically sending people to prison in El Salvador without due process was appropriate. That's why the Supreme Court acted in the middle of the night to insist that there be due process rights afforded to people who are being herded onto tarmacs and were about to be put on planes and sent to foreign lands, some of which they weren't from. The striking thing about this is the reframing of what an Article III judge is. That judge is a person who's supposed to be above a political pressure point from the president. That person is supposed to be above the media discussion, the public square discussion about what's happening. They're supposed to read the law and figure out, is there something here that I need to question, reassess? Do I need to have a preliminary injunction? Do I need a temporary restraining order? Do I need a stay? Do I need the parties to come in and give me more information? That's what an Article III judge does. And, you know, Donald Trump was pretty okay with the Supreme Court's decisions when it came to his immunity, but he's not okay with these decisions that are consistently going against his claim.